12-year-old Andre stepped slowly onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage, his tiny feet making soft echoes across the polished floor. The boy looked like he had carried the weight of a whole lifetime even though he was barely old enough to understand the world. His faded shirt hung loosely on his fragile frame, the collar stretched and the fabric worn thin from too many washes in the dirty river back in Cebu City. He blinked rapidly under the bright stage lights, overwhelmed by a world that looked nothing like the crowded streets, loud jeepneys, and small food stalls he had grown up around. This moment felt unreal to him, like he had stepped into someone else's dream. The audience immediately noticed his frailness. He walked with slow, cautious steps, almost scared to break something. His eyes were dark, deep, and tired, yet full of a strange hope that made strangers instantly worry for him. Judge Mary O'Connell leaned forward with her hand covering her heart. She whispered something to Judge Liam Parker, her voice trembling with concern. Liam, known for being cold and strict, actually paused before speaking, his usual toughness cracking for a second. Andre felt all their eyes on him, and he gently held his own fingers together as if holding himself steady. A microphone stand towered in front of him. He looked up at it nervously and then at the judges, who were watching him like he was something fragile that might break. The host offstage nodded gently for him to speak. Andre swallowed hard, gathering the courage he had learned from years of singing on busy streets where people barely noticed him. "My name is Andre," he said softly, his Filipino accent mixing with shyness. "I am from Cebu City, Philippines." The hall fell into a deeper silence. Those simple words held a world of struggle inside them. Mary's eyes filled with tears instantly. Something about the boy's tone, humble, gentle, almost apologetic, struck her heart. Liam's expression changed completely, his eyebrows tightening with concern. "Did you come here with your family?" he asked softly, afraid of the answer. Andre lowered his gaze and shook his head. "I came, alone," he whispered. A wave of emotion passed through the audience. Someone gasped loudly. Liam removed his glasses, pretending to clean them, trying to hide the sudden moisture in his eyes. Andre slowly explained that he used to sing on sidewalks, hoping to earn a few coins to help his sick mother back home. The judges listened silently, their faces sinking deeper into emotion as each detail painted a picture of a childhood filled with hardship and courage. Mary pressed her fingers to her lips, fighting tears. Connor Steele, the toughest judge of all, looked down at the table, swallowing hard, his jaw clenched. Then Andre lifted his head and said in the softest voice, "I want to sing, Hotel California, because it makes me feel free." Something shifted in the room. The judges leaned forward, the audience leaned forward, even the camera crew paused. In that moment, every person in the building felt the story of a poor boy from Cebu who had crossed oceans, carried pain on his shoulders, and now stood under the brightest lights of his life, praying for one chance to be heard. The entire world seemed to hold its breath for him. The moment the first soft guitar notes of Hotel California flowed through the arena, the entire atmosphere changed. What had been a noisy crowd only minutes ago suddenly became still, as if the whole of Ireland held its breath for a boy who looked too small for the enormous stage. Andre closed his eyes for a brief second, gathering all the courage he had earned from years of singing barefoot near jeepneys and crowded sidewalks in Cebu City. When he opened his eyes again, something inside him shifted. Fear melted into determination, and determination transformed into something almost magical. The first line escaped his lips, and the hall froze. His voice didn't sound like a poor child who spent nights sleeping on torn cardboard. It didn't sound like someone who had grown up with hunger, noise, and 1,000 broken moments. Instead, it rang out pure, warm, hauntingly beautiful, an angelic tone soaked in emotion. The audience blinked in disbelief. People exchanged shocked glances. The judges leaned in as if gravity itself had pushed them forward. Judge Liam Parker, the strict one who rarely softened for anyone, lowered his hand from his chin and just stared. His eyes widened. This wasn't just singing. This was pain, hope, struggle, and strength woven into every note. Liam whispered softly to himself, "Oh my God," as if the words escaped without his permission. Judge Mary pressed a hand over her heart, tears already forming. The melody wrapped around her, each lyric pulling her deeper into Andre's story without him needing to speak a single word. Andre's voice rose gently, controlled yet filled with emotion that only someone who had lived through hardship could express. Every time he reached a challenging note, it came out stronger than expected, shocking the judges further. Connor Steele, known across the show for being cold and unmoved, sat back slowly in his chair, blinking rapidly. The camera zoomed in on him just in time to capture his eyes watering, a rare moment the audience later replayed millions of times. Every corner of the arena felt the boy's heart inside his voice. People who had come expecting entertainment found themselves clutching their chest, wiping tears, and shaking their heads in awe. A woman in the front row mouthed, "This can't be real." Another audience member covered his mouth, overwhelmed by the purity of what he was hearing. As the chorus began, Andre tightened both hands into soft fists, not out of fear but out of the deep emotion that bubbled inside him. He poured everything, his mother's illness, his loneliness, his hunger, and his dreams, into the song. The sadness of the original lyrics mixed with the fragile strength in his voice, creating a sound so unique that even the production crew backstage stopped working to listen. Near the final high note, the hall felt suspended in time. Andre lifted his chin slightly, filling his lungs, and released the purest, clearest note the audience had ever heard from a child. It echoed through the arena like a miracle. People gasped. Someone cried out, "Yes, baby, sing." The judges stood halfway from their seats, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Andre ended the song with a soft, trembling final note that floated beautifully through the silence. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody clapped. Nobody breathed. It was the kind of moment that lives forever in memory, raw, sacred, unforgettable. For a long, fragile moment after the song ended, the entire arena remained frozen. Silence swept across the room like a wave, the kind of silence that happens only when something extraordinary has just taken place. Andre stood on the stage gripping the microphone with both hands, his small chest rising and falling quickly, unsure if he had done well or if he had failed in front of thousands. He kept his eyes lowered, afraid to look at the judges, afraid to look at the massive crowd staring back at him. His heart hammered inside his thin frame, and for a second, he felt like that little boy on the streets of Cebu again, just another kid unnoticed by the world. But then, someone in the audience rose to their feet. A man in the back row stood first, clapping slowly yet powerfully. Then a woman in front of him stood. Another person followed. Another. Within seconds, the entire arena erupted into a roaring, thunderous standing ovation. People cheered, cried, shouted his name. Confetti hadn't even fallen yet, but the energy felt like a victory already. Andre looked up, startled, his eyes widening as he realized the reaction was for him. Tears pooled instantly, overflowing down his cheeks. He brought a tiny hand to his mouth, stunned. Judge Mary O'Connell was already crying openly, tears streaming down her face without shame. She stood from her chair with trembling legs, shaking her head in pure disbelief. When she tried to speak, her voice cracked. Finally, she managed, "Andre, sweetheart, you didn't just sing. You reached every heart in this room. You broke us. You lifted us. You reminded us of something beautiful." She wiped her eyes again, but the tears kept coming. Judge Liam Parker pressed a hand firmly against his chest, as if trying to steady his heartbeat. His usually calm voice trembled. "You came on this stage with pain in your eyes, but you sang with a spirit bigger than this entire arena," he said softly. "You have something rare, something powerful. Andre, you gave Ireland a gift tonight." Connor Steele, who had never cried on the show before, removed his glasses and placed them on the table. His eyes were red, glassy, and full of emotion he couldn't hide. The audience gasped at the sight of this tough judge breaking down. Connor looked at the boy with a mixture of pride and heartbreak. "The world tried to silence you," he said, his voice deep and shaking. "But you refused to stay silent. And I'm honored that you chose this stage to tell your story." Andre's tears flowed freely now, his shoulders shaking as he tried to hold himself together. He whispered, thank you so much," but his little voice cracked under the weight of emotion. Then, without warning, Mary slammed her hand onto the golden buzzer. A burst of golden light exploded above them, and confetti rained down like blessings from the sky. The crowd screamed louder than ever, the cheers vibrating through the floor. Andre dropped to his knees in shock, covering his face as the golden storm fell around him. Mary rushed onto the stage, gathering the boy into her arms. Liam and Connor followed, surrounding him in a protective, emotional embrace. The arena shook with applause, chants of, "Andre! Andre!" filling the air. A poor boy from Cebu City had not only touched Ireland, he had conquered its heart forever.